Welcome to the third segment of the CPA Mentor Orientation. After having completed the first two segments, you know what it takes to get prepared for your mentoring relationship and understand what is needed to establish your relationship. You are now ready to build upon that foundation with the future CPA. Please remember that you will need to complete all 5 segments of the orientation sequentially. Together, the 5 segments will help you understand what is involved in mentoring a future CPA. You'll recall the CPA mentorship framework we previously presented to you. In this segment, we'll focus on the build phase, during which you and the future CPA will continue to establish rapport and trust over time in order to build the relationship. As we mentioned in the previous segment, if you work at the same organization as the future CPA or already have an established relationship, you will not need to spend much time getting to know each other. One initial meeting might suffice. For others, this process might take 2 to 3 meetings over the first 6 months of the relationship. In this segment, we will proceed under the assumption that you will require at least 3 meetings in the first 6 months. You can adjust your mentoring activities accordingly if that is not the case. In the previous segment, we introduced you to some activities that will enable you to establish the relationship with the future CPA at the first meeting. To build upon that foundation during meetings 2 and 3, you will want to carry on with the activities you initiated during the first meeting, especially if you did not fully complete them or if you and the future CPA do not yet know each other well. You will also want to get familiar with how to have mentoring conversations, including understanding the significance of the what, so what, now what model, storytelling, listening, and questioning skills. And you will want to understand how to work with diversity. At the second and potentially third meeting, you will want to finalize the learning plan and mentoring agreement, if not yet completed during the first meeting. If you already completed them, it's a good idea to review what the plan is and how you will engage with each other. A sample learning plan and mentoring agreement are available in the Center for Mentoring Resources. You might also want to select additional trust-building exercises to complete together, as this will help you to continue to establish rapport and get to know each other. If you recall from the previous segment, a number of trust-building exercises are also available to you in the Center for Mentoring Resources. Since you and the future CPA are continuing to establish trust and rapport, you might want to start holding mentoring conversations during meetings 2 and 3. In addition to building a solid foundation for the relationship, the objective of these conversations is to practice your storytelling, listening, and questioning skills prior to getting into more strategic discussions about the future CPA's competency development using the Practical Experience Reporting tool. We'll cover those types of discussions in Segment 4 of this orientation. Meantime, prior to meetings 2 and 3, consider asking the future CPA to choose a mentoring topic that will form the basis of your mentoring conversations for those meetings. You should note that every mentoring conversation has a general flow where you and the future CPA will start off the conversation by reestablishing rapport. You will move on to discussing a particular mentoring topic that is driven by the future CPA's question. You will listen, ask questions, and draw upon your own experience in an attempt to clarify and challenge the future CPA's thinking. As the conversation progresses, you will enable the future CPA to build confidence and gain insights by exploring options and new actions. Toward the end of the mentoring conversation, you will begin to wrap up the discussion by determining next steps and confirming the next meeting. For simplicity, we have presented this as a linear process, but in reality, a mentoring conversation is more of a meandering discussion. Keep this flow in mind when you begin to have mentoring conversations with the future CPA. Great mentors work with stories, and good stories build trust in the mentoring relationship. Listening and questioning are also critical mentoring skills, and as with any critical skills, they take time and practice to develop. All 3 are required when beginning to hold mentoring conversations with the future CPA. With With the future CPA's chosen mentoring topic in mind, you might want to reflect back on your own experiences in order to come up with a relevant story to be shared at your next meeting. To help you develop your storytelling abilities, we have developed a How to Tell Good Story framework. You can find it in the Center for Mentoring Resources. We learn by reflecting on our past actions and experiences, and meaningful reflections that result in changing perspectives and behavior are exceptionally difficult to do alone. Essentially, mentoring conversations are facilitated reflections that result in opportunities to improve through storytelling, listening, and questioning. In the first segment of this mentor orientation, we suggested that you watch the CPA Practical Experience Competencies Overview and review the related fact sheet. Accordingly, you are already aware that we are using the what, so what, now what model to provide future CPAs with an opportunity to reflect on their development of the enabling competencies. The what, so what, now what model can also provide a great framework for carrying out mentoring conversations with the future CPA by encouraging the future CPA to reflect back on what has been happening, fostering the achievement of insight, and prompting commitment to new behavior. Again, with the future CPA's chosen mentoring topic in mind, you might want to consider which types of questions you wish to ask in order to sustain the mentoring conversation at your next meeting. To help you develop your listening and questioning skills, we have developed an optional webinar that more fully explores how to ask really good questions and suggested questions you might find helpful when holding mentoring conversations related to each of the 5 enabling competency areas. You can find all of these in the Center for Mentoring Resources. Today's workplace is comprised of an ever-changing mix of individuals from various age ranges, cultures, genders, and more. Working with others who are different from ourselves can lead to increased creativity and innovation. We have the opportunity to embrace diversity by acknowledging, understanding, and leveraging both our similarities and our differences. Mentoring relationships offer mentors and future CPAs with particularly good opportunities to understand each other's similarities and differences when determining how to work with each other and building a long-term relationship. You may choose to explore diversity issues during your second and third meetings with the future CPA if the two of you believe they are relevant to your mentoring relationship. To assist you in having these conversations, you might want to check out the Professions Working with Diversity webinar available in the Center for Mentoring Resources. In instances where cultural differences are creating challenges for the future CPA in the workplace, you might also want to direct the future CPA to the Canadian Business Culture course developed by CPA Canada. Starting September 2014, this resource can be found in Desire to Learn and is available to future CPAs only. We have highlighted a number of useful resources in this segment of the mentor orientation, including a learning plan worksheet, a mentoring agreement worksheet, 5 potential relationship building exercises, a framework for telling a good story, a How to Ask Really Good Questions webinar, suggested questions you might find helpful when holding mentoring conversations related to each of the 5 enabling competency areas, and a Working with Diversity webinar. All of these tools are available to you to explore at your convenience in the Center for Mentoring Resources. You're just about done the 3rd segment of the mentor orientation. Let's walk you through an exercise to assist you in understanding some of the content we've covered so far. Consider which of the following statements are true. A, the what, when, where, why, how, who model is a suggested framework for mentoring conversations. Listening and questioning are critical mentoring skills. C, at the second meeting, the mentor and future CPA should complete any outstanding items from the first meeting. D, diversity in mentoring relationships needs to be avoided. Or E, both B and C above. The correct answer is E. Both B and C are true. Listening and asking good questions are critical mentoring skills, and we recommend that at the second meeting, the mentor and future CPA complete any outstanding items from the previous meeting. A is incorrect as the what, so what, now what model, rather than the what, when, where, why, how, who model, is a suggested framework for mentoring conversations. D is incorrect since we encourage you and the future CPA to embrace and work with diversity rather than to avoid it. Now that you know how to continue to build the mentoring relationship over the first few meetings with the future CPA, you are ready to proceed to the fourth segment of the orientation, entitled 4 Steps to Making Progress in Your Mentoring Relationship.